Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Oh, my mother.
He's the most under-the-radar guy ever.
Nomad has seen a dizzying rise to the top ever since his MMA debut in 2014. And after joining the UFC in 2019, his fame became even greater. However, his career is still at a relatively early stage, so you might not know quite as much about him as you would other fighters in the franchise. You would be surprised at the winding road this fighter has traveled to get to where he is today. So without further ado, here are 10 incredible facts about Shavkat Rakhmonov. Number 10. His first job was at a warehouse. Shavkat is living it up nowadays, especially after the insane run of victories he's had so far, but he wasn't always rich and famous. Now, everyone knows he's Kazakh, but what you might not realize is that he was born in Uzbekistan. When the Rakhmonovs moved back to their native country of Kazakhstan in around 2010, a 16-year-old Shavkat had to pitch in with the finances, and he had to make do with a pretty humble job. All he could get was a gig loading trucks at a warehouse, but that just goes to show how disciplined the fighter has been from a very young age. I mean, I could barely hold down a job at Burger King when I was 16, but Shavkat somehow managed to balance a blue-collar job with his true passion. Number 9. He started out learning combat sambo at around this time. Lifting all those heavy objects must have given Nomad some serious strength, and as a kid struggling to support his family, he probably had a ton of frustration that he needed to release. This brought him to his one true love, combat sports, but he didn't get started with MMA right away. Instead, Shavkat began learning the Soviet martial art Sambo, which involves throws, submission holds, and other techniques. That kind of explains how Shavkat got so good at grappling, not to mention his countless submission victories over the course of his career. Bear in mind, Nomad specifically learned the combat version of this martial art, so he took it very seriously from the get-go. Honestly, his family might have something to do with it. Number 8. His sister is an MMA fighter too. This just goes to show fighting is in Nomad's blood, and you can see it when his sister, Sora Rakhmonova, enters the cage. Now, he does not exactly like watching his sister fight, but he wouldn't dare try to stop her either. And with a professional record of 4 victories, 2 of them coming by technical knockout and 1 by submission, she has proved her worth. Shavkat has told her that she has a name to live up to and that she has to work hard if she wants to join the big leagues. As a matter of fact, she was actually scheduled to fight this September on Dana White's Contender Series, but unfortunately had to pull out due to a shoulder injury. But at 25 years of age, and with someone like Shavkat offering his sage advice, the future is bright for this young female Kazakh warrior. Number 7. He became the 6th M1 Global Welterweight Champion in 2018. Shavkat had been competing in the Russian MMA tournament for about 4 years by this point, and after decimating Adam Surov in his debut bout, he ended up reaching the very top of the welterweight division before moving on to greener pastures. Just 5 other fighters have managed to become welterweight champs in the M1 Global promotion, so when Nomad took Daniil Prikaza apart in the championship bout, he announced his arrival on the world stage in style. His opponent was absolutely helpless in the face of his onslaught, and Shavkat ended up winning the bout with a TKO stoppage in the 2nd round. Number 6. He's the first Kazakh fighter signed to the UFC. You heard that right. Never before has a Kazakh fighter entered the UFC octagon, so Shavkat's definitely one for the history books. He's well aware of it too, because when his contract finally got announced, he was pretty eager to prove himself and make his fellow Kazakhs proud. There is a bit of a burden on Shavkat's shoulders here though. Now that he's broken into the big leagues, plenty of other Kazakh fighters might follow, and he needs to lead them by example. Even if we ignore other fighters from his country, millions of fans back home are counting on him to bring glory and respect to the nation. Hey, when Bout makes you the laughingstock of the world, it must be nice to see an actual Kazakh get respect in the world's #1 MMA promotion. Number 5. His first UFC bout was cancelled. After getting signed by the UFC, Shavkat was scheduled to face Bartosz Fabinski. The Butcher dropped down to the welterweight division specifically for the bout, and the stage was set for Nomad to make his UFC debut against a worthy opponent. The bout was supposed to take place at UFC Fight Night on March 21st, 2020, with Tyron Woodley and Leon Edwards headlining the event. Shavkat must have been looking forward to hearing the crowd at the O2 Arena, and this would have been the first time he fought in the UK as well, but I guess it just wasn't meant to be. COVID had started rearing its ugly head, and things were starting to get pretty bad at around this time. When the UK banned all travel into the country to stop the pandemic in its tracks, the entire event was postponed. and Shavkat's bout, along with several others, ended up getting canceled. The good news is, he managed to fight his first UFC opponent that October, and he has not looked back since. Number 4. He's won every single fight so far. As of the end of 2023, Rakhmonov has competed in 6 UFC bouts, and he hasn't lost a single one. The thing is, his win streak stretches all the way back to 2014, when he defeated Adam Surov with a triangle choke in his welterweight debut. Over the subsequent decade, Shavkat fought 17 more times, and none of his opponents managed to last very long. His record now stands at 18 consecutive wins, with his latest victory coming against Stephen Thompson at UFC 296 in Vegas. The fact that he's never lost is impressive enough on its own, but it's also just the tip of the iceberg. Number 3. All his wins are either by knockout or submission. There's absolutely nothing wrong with winning by decision. In fact, those are some of the most enjoyable matches, because they involve both opponents bringing their A-game. Now, if you're hoping for a nice, long match, you're fresh out of luck when Rakhmonov is involved. The Kazakh fighter loves to beat his opponents down before the final horn, with each of his 18 victories coming via submission, knockout, or TKO. His UFC debut against Alex Oliveira in Abu Dhabi saw him defeat the Brazilian fighter with a guillotine choke in just 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Right before that, he'd won 2 bouts via TKO after punching his opponents out in successive M1 matches, and thanks to his aggression, his career couldn't be going any better. Number 2. He's fought in 6 countries. His M1 career had him fighting across Russia, Kazakhstan, and Azerbaijan, and in 2016, he made his way to South Korea, where he fought Junyong Park in a catchweight bout. Signing with the UFC was bound to add more countries to the list, and he caught a glimpse of the Arabian desert in Abu Dhabi, where he destroyed Oliveira, and his subsequent UFC fights have all taken place in the US. If it hadn't been for the pandemic, Shavkat would have probably added the UK to his list too, but even so, he's traveled tens of thousands of miles in his career, and chances are he'll do a lot more adventuring before his time is up. Number 1. Laura Senko seems to have a major crush on him. Look, Laura's known to get flirty with a few fighters, but her obsession with Shavkat on a whole other level. She's literally said he gives her chills.
Shavkat Rakhmonov. That man gives me chills.
And whenever she talks about him, her eyes kind of gloss over, her voice goes up a whole octave, and she starts to stutter. What's even more surprising is that she maintains a relatively professional demeanor when they're actually face-to-face. That last bit seals the deal for me more than anything else, because her flirting is always playful and casual, but in Shavkat's case, it's almost like she actually has the hots for him. Which of these incredible facts surprised you the most? Leave a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. But that's all for today. See you next time. Till then, remember to protect yourself at all times.